It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Look, they've lost 10 of their last 13 games. So when you sit there and say, well, they're one of the best teams in the league, I don't know, being 3-10, that's kind of a stretch if you look at what's happened recently. Certainly they've got to play better defense than what they've been playing. They just gave up way too many points too quickly. They're still turning the ball over too much.
Bill Belichick said that on the Pat McAfee show about the Eagles. Look, you're 3, and I think they're 3-8 in their last 11 games. What kind of team is this? Is this just a bad team? And what is accountability in the NFL? Let's ask a guy who played in the NFL. How do you hold today's players accountable? You know, Colin Thompson, NFL free agent tight end, the Colin Thompson Show, Sirius XM NFL Radio, joins me right now on the Sports Bash to give us a player's perspective on that very topic, Colin Thompson. A lot of word accountability getting thrown around about this team the last couple of days. How do you hold an NFL player accountable in today's game? I can't say, Colin Thompson, you were late for practice today or you weren't paying attention in the film, you're running gassers. That don't happen anymore, does it?
Cash. They hit your wallet. If you're late, if you miss a meeting, it's about, I think it's like $5,000. If you miss the meeting, the team meeting could be 5 minutes. I've seen guys do this where you have a 5-minute team meeting, miss that, and then you have like a 5-minute offensive quick unit meeting before going to individual, and then you miss that. So that's like a $10,000 pocketbook hit. And everyone's like, oh, that's nothing to a millionaire. No, it's not, because that's your weekly pay, right? You get paid weekly. So if you make $20,000 that week, that's half your pay for that week's gone, you know, if you look at it that way. So they hit your pocketbook. You also get fined, Mike, for accountability if you're overweight or underweight. So if you have your goal weight, for me, it was 253, 255, right? Whatever that was when I played, 250. So you have like 2 pounds plus or minus. So if I weighed in at 250, for every pound, it's like $500, right? So there's accountability in that. It's money. And also, it's also what's your contract look like, to the extent of like, are you going to lose your job? Like, are you going to get cut if you're not playing well? Like, I'll never forget this. We played the Eagles. I didn't play well. And Coach Rule came up to me at a walkthrough the next day and said, if you suck, I will cut you. And he's right. You know, I wasn't playing well. And that's how it goes. Now, if you're a guaranteed money guy, your best players need to be playing the best. But, Mike, it's not about the accountability of the players of this organization right now. Let's hold everyone's feet to the fire. Culturally, there's a problem. It's a culture problem. And you would never say that about the Eagles. Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Jalen Hurts is a grinder, Lane Johnson. There's a culture issue, Mike. Since they've lost that Super Bowl by 3 to the Chiefs, man, it has not been the same since Gannon walked out that door and everybody thought was a goof. I think he's a pretty good football coach. And then Steichen walked out that door, which everybody has a lot of respect for. It's not been the same. Now, that doesn't mean it's the coordinator's fault, because I'm a Desai fan. Desai and Vic Fangio, they're the same structure. But this is an owner, this is a GM, this is the head coach, this is a quarterback. This is a group that's really well compensated. This is a group that's really well respected, that has not performed in over a year. Think about those games last year, Mike, when I was on your show. It was like, wow, they're just learning to win close games. Like, no, the Chiefs dropped a wide open touchdown last year. If anybody remembers that, they should have won. I think it was Valdez-Scantling maybe, or Hardman, one of those guys. The Buffalo game probably should have been all right. So I digress, Mike, but I think it's a culture issue top down, because now it's just oozing out of that place. Did you feel any juice against the Bucs? It's like, no.
Well, today, Fangio, for instance, he said it was surprising that they came out with all these short, quick passes. You know, he said, they came out throwing real fast, real quick, and we weren't tight enough. And you're saying, yeah, we kept telling them to move up, but they weren't really doing it. Like, that's where you're like, I can't imagine Vic Fangio not being able to get his message across to his defense.
And those defensive backs are like dudes, too, now. This isn't like just like run-of-the-mill DBs. It's like Quinn. What they were doing, they were taking free access. What's free access mean? If your corner's like the first play of the game, they did it. If your corner's like 8 yards off, Mike Evans just run a 5-yard route, hit him, boom, dot. Then you're 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4 on the little Omaha, the quick out route, the 5-yard out. So that's what you see with Mike and Brady and all them take it. For the number one receivers in the league, how do we get them the ball? if there's free access, again, the guy's 8 to 10 yards off, we're just going to take it. If it's press, we're just going to hand the ball off. Like if there's a run, we're going to run it. But if I look out there and I'm a quarterback and I see this, you see it all the time on the goal line with the fade routes, right? Press man to man. So, you know what, Mike? You know what I was thinking about? Go to Tampa. You lose in the playoffs pretty bad. You know, you'd probably change the process of how you go about your weeks of practice compared to last year, I would assume. Right? There was practice hard, not hard, whatever. You can't practice hard in the NFL in season. You can't. Look at the Ravens. They do it. How do they last in the playoffs? I'm for the Ravens' point. If I'm them, man, I'm just. It's a leap of faith. Everyone, I need you fresh and healthy. We're going to get to the games, and we're going to. So, and the Ravens are a great organization. The Patriots are a great organization. They're the ones that practice hard. It's like, can we afford to injure guys, but can we afford not to be sharp? I digress. Go back to the Eagles. Why didn't they go to Tampa on Monday and practice down there and get ready for the Heat? I get it, East Coast all the time. But how much is a win worth, especially in the NFC? How much is a win worth, Mike? And to me, it's priceless. Because look at Washington. I get it. West Coast, go out to Arizona. Right? The West Coast teams, they come to the East Coast, they stay at the Greenbrier, they stay in Charlotte. Why don't you go down to Tampa, practice at USF?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you take a look at, they mentioned it many times during the game, how hot it was. I thought Brady brought up a good point of, hey, when you're in the Northeast, later on in the season, you have the home field advantage. When you're down here, early in the season, we have the home field advantage. And, it looked like a lot of that game. And now, it didn't help that the Eagles' defense was on the field all day long. And I'll ask you, Colin, you were a guy that was a reserve player in the NFL. When you look at the Eagles' offense, no A.J. Brown, no Devontae Smith, no Lane Johnson, do you enter that game and say, they're going to have a tough day at the office trying to get points?
I look around the league, Mike. Look how many injuries there are. And look how teams are still finding a way to have success. I mean, the Rams have like a skeleton roster right now. And some they came back against the Niners last week and won. You're like, how are they winning? That's coach and quarterback. And then when you look at the Chiefs, I mean, they're on their third, fourth running back, guy was on the street, wasn't even at training camp, I think, Kareem Hunt. So, the good ones find a way. Rashid Rice goes down, they still come back and win. To me, it's like, I get it. You need the Jimmies and Joes, but when the Jimmies and Joes aren't healthy, man, you got to dial it up for you to have success. I don't know, Mike. At the end of the day, I think there's a Eagles organization I have a ton of respect for. I do. I grew up there. I played against them. I lost to them. I know. I know a lot of people in that building. Respect, but there's something in the water right now. You can't put your hands on it.
What?
No one. You can't. I don't think anybody can.
No, and the answer that I think it stands out to everybody is when Hurts is asked, basically, hey, do you and Sirianni talk about your identity and the accountability? He says, we have our moments. What is your reaction as a guy who's been in locker rooms to see the starting quarterback kind of almost dismiss the question as, we have our moments?
Man, it's there's smoke, there's fire. And there's just been smoke. There's just been I was preparing for your show today, preparing for my show. I'm watching the tape yesterday, Mike. I got a guy down here in Annapolis who's a Philly guy who's in the gym with me, who's always hounding me. And I'm just like, are you excited? Are they an exciting football team? Are they the team that we watched when they won when they were in the Super Bowl and almost beat the Chiefs, should have beat the Chiefs? And they had the pass rush and they had the O-line and there's this identity of F you, man. Where is that? Where is that? The only time you see that is with the tush push, and you hope Saquon blows one out the water. But the first play of the game, Hurts is really. I'm a Hurts fan. He missed that throw. Saquon was open for a touchdown. You're just it's just at the end of the day, Mike. I think that it's everybody. You could point to every single thing. You pay Huff. I think was a great player in the Jet scheme, but he's not a stand-up outside linebacker who sets the edge. That's Hassan Reddick. He walked out the door. They let him walk out. He was perfect for this defense. That's why they brought him in to begin with, to play in that defense after the Super Bowl run. Okay, and then Sweat, he's getting older, and he's had injury problems. He's not the same guy. So, that is huge. Your big money guys got to play your best. And if they're not playing their best, your coach, Sean McVay, Andy Reid, go down the list. The guys in New England who you couldn't even name it wide out for periods of time. So that's where I'm at, Mike. I know I keep going back to it, man. Where's the excitement? Where's the juice? Where's the culture in Philly right now? I don't feel it.
Yeah.
I do feel it. It's not positive.
Well, and listen, I go back to you talk about it doesn't feel right. I got to imagine Sirianni's obviously getting a lot of heat, and he's here, and everybody says, "Well, what are you doing? What do you do?" I don't know. Did when you were in Carolina, did Rule call plays?
No, he did not.
Right, he was a CEO head coach, right? So the point is, like, a lot of people say, "What does Sirianni do?" Just because you don't call the plays doesn't mean you're not doing anything. So what does a guy who's not Sean McVay, a head coach / play caller, what are they doing on game day to kind of justify to people? Because they ask all the time, well, what do you do?
It's a great question. And another organization, Mike, they may have a lot more involvement. Coach Rule was involved in personnel. Coach Rule was involved in everything, like situational football. Coach Rule was unbelievable at, and that's what Sirianni could be doing. It's like, okay, guys, here's the 3 examples of 2-minute drills that happened. What can we learn from those 3 examples that happened last week in the NFL? Guys, here's a tape of every special teams blunder last week. The Saints opening play of their punt return, fumbled it in the end zone. That's why they lost the game, really. So, that's what a lot of coaches do, are putting tapes together to show how other teams are beating themselves. Because honestly, this league is just full of teams that are beating themselves, not even really winning games. Mm-hmm. So that's their role, is personnel, scheduling, operational stuff, talking to media. It's a lot. Yeah. But I'll say this. I know Coach Sirianni's, I would assume he's not involved in personnel because that's how he's shown. Right. So what's then okay, now what? Right? Coach Rule had a big role in person, and I thought he did a great job with in Carolina. We had some good players there. So at the end of the day, I don't know, man. To me, Mike, there needs to be a culture shift. I would have went down on Monday to Tampa and said, bring your families. Here's the hotel. You can get Airbnbs. We're going to do a normal week. We need to restart because there's a cultural issue here in the building. I do say this too, Mike, defensively. I think there's an adjustment to the defense a little bit, and they'll be fine as the season goes along. They got some good players on there. I think that's going to be a mainstay for them.
I want to play this bite from Jason Kelsey. He said this on the New Heights podcast regarding Nick Sirianni and why he felt that Sirianni is one of the best head coaches he's ever been around. This is Jason Kelsey. Take a listen, Colin Thompson. Hold on. I had it queued up for you here. Let me get it queued up.
Everything's excellent.
There we go. Yep.
Nick, and I really mean this, is one of the best coaches I've been around, and talking about coaching situational ball, really understanding what to do in the right moment, motivating guys. We coach things up in team meetings and hold people accountable better than pretty much any other coach I've been around.
Are you surprised to hear the 3 things he said? Holding people accountable better than any coach I've ever been around, which includes Doug Peterson and Andy Reid, by the way. Situational and motivating. So when I hear that from Jason Kelsey, am I supposed to suggest that Nick Sirianni is the problem here?
I think there's a culture issue top down, Mike. I think it's
Are you surprised that bite? Are you surprised to hear that bite?
I'm just it's great to hear. I respect Jason. And when Jason doesn't just speak to speak, he's a pretty sharp guy.
That was on, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, that was on New Heights. That was on New Heights. So he's on his podcast. He's not he's not answering a question from a media member. He's talking freely.
He's not on ESPN where they're paying him X, I think.
Right, well, he's not taking a question from a reporter and answering it in a blowbag way. He's speaking freely on his own podcast.
Just a couple things. It makes, if an Eagle fan, it would make me happy to hear that. That's great. And I just subscribe Coach Rule doing the same thing. Now, everyone's like, Coach Rule lost, whatever. There's a reason why you lose games outside of being a coach. My point is this. It's either on the whole thing needs to be at a reboot. Not meaning coaches fired and all that. I mean, we got to mix something up. We got to mix something up because it's not looking pretty. And you don't have the same juice and more. It's just not there. It's like the Eagles, man. They're a great football team, but they're not playing great. So like Coach Belichick said, are they legit? You got to be legit. You got to win games to be legit. That's Tampa taking it to them now, twice in 5 games. So at the end of the day, Mike, it was great to hear from Jason to him say that, but at the end of the day, the players got to step up and be like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. And I thought Carter did that against New Orleans. They did some on film, he did some big things against the Bucks too, but they were 4 hands on him at all times.
Yeah.
I mean, he stands out on the D-line, Mike, when you watch the film. Like, he looks like a bear.
By
Like,
the way,
he's
that
like
was a topic today in the press conference, with Fangio. He was asked about Jalen Carr is on pace for 850 snaps. That's 300 more than last year. Does he think that's sustainable?
What did he say?
He said, I don't know. It's an individual thing. I'm used to in a lot of places where defensive linemen can play that much. To me, it's an individual thing. It's a nice shot at the player saying, if you get your ass in shape, you can play that much.
Yeah, well, it's too late. You can't get in shape in season. You can play well. He'll be fine. The guy's a freak. He's a great player. Mike, at the end of the day, as a player, you got to take responsibility. You got to point the thumb. If everybody in your organization points the thumb, not the finger, you'll have a lot of success.
Okay, let me ask you. You're an offensive player.
Yeah.
You hear 15 missed tackles. What's that tell you?
It means we're tired. Not that we don't practice tackling or that they're not good players. Like, they got good players on every level of that defense. That's why they impressed me, honestly. Like, that once they get it together, that defense is going to run the team. Because offensively right now, at times it's the most talented group in the league probably. But it's not clicking. It is, but they
got some injury issues for sure. But I
know,
definitely
but
think
like,
the quarterback.
So do the Rams.
But
The
no, I'm
Rams
saying
won like 30.
I agree with you. But I'm saying I think they have some injury issues, which elevates the quarterback. The quarterback to me is not an elevator. He's elevated by what's around him. So you're going to struggle if your quarterback can't be Matthew Stafford and pull guys towards up to him. He lowers to he's afraid to throw the ball to Dotson, and he's afraid to throw the ball to Campbell. You could see it in his face. He don't trust those guys.
They need to get under center, like I said in the offseason, Mike. And you're seeing some of it. They're starting to get under center now and throw some screens. I'm getting under center. I'm running the football, and I'm play action pass. Look at the Vikings. Sam Darnold's like the best QB in the league this year. Derek Carr at times looked like the best quarterback on the planet.
You've been calling the Darnold thing for a couple of years and looking like an idiot.
Right? And everyone's like, this guy's 610. No. So my point is, like, I just saw it with my own 2 eyes. The bottom line is this: run the ball, play action. Purdy, Darnold, Carr, it works. The only teams it doesn't work for is Kansas City because they got the best player on the planet. So they don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Cincinnati doesn't do it because they have Joe Burrow. How's that working out? So at the end of the day, it's like, that's what you got to do to win football games in this league. Run the ball, stop the run. The trend has shifted completely back to it.
Yep.
And teams are running the hell out of the football.
All right. He is Colin Thompson, the Colin Thompson Show, Sirius XM NFL Radio. Not for long. You can check him out on his podcast, his YouTube channel, and all that good jazz. And right here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. This has been a really good conversation. If we had more time, we'd be continuing good conversation because I have a lot more questions, but I have not a lot more time.
Culture, Mike, there's something wrong. I don't know what it is. I don't think anybody can put their finger on it, and I think that's what kind of rubs people the wrong way. There's not one person to blame. I think the whole thing.
Hey, I'll tell you what, your former place, a quick change from Young to what's his name, Dalton, has changed the feeling in that locker room pretty quickly. I know they didn't win last week, but they look like a competent NFL team all of a sudden.
They got good players in there. They pay a lot of money to a lot of people. Yeah. So, yeah.
The owner's a little weird. Mike. The owner's a little weird down there. I will make you comment on that one.
Have a great day, Mike. Thank you.
All right, man. See you. Colin Thompson, former Carolina Panther, and, of course, here on the Sports Bash.